Hello again. I'm Clark Saunders. Composer Craig Castles and I make up the songwriting team of Castles and Saunders. I'm the one who writes the words. So far in this series of vlogs about tales and tunes of the Old Testament, I've had something to say about 3 songs in this collection. Songs about creation, about Noah and the flood, and about Abraham. Today, I'll add some comments about a song inspired by one more character in the book of Genesis before moving on to the man who dominates the book of Exodus. Over half a century ago, Tim Rice and Andrew Lloyd Webber discovered that there is enough material in the story of Joseph for a whole musical. Craig Castles and I were faced with the challenge of saying something about this well-known Old Testament figure in just one song. Joseph's story certainly has appeal for children. Many of us first heard it as children ourselves, and much of it has stayed with us. But it's a long story, taking up most of the last 14 chapters of Genesis. Much of what we recall has to do with Joseph's relationship with his brothers, a prominent feature at the beginning of the story, and again when it comes to an end. At the beginning, we learn that the brothers resent the favoritism that their father Jacob shows toward Joseph, and the smug way Joseph recounts the dreams in which it is clear he imagines his brothers bowing down to him. After they consider killing him, the brothers decide instead to sell him to some Ishmaelites who are on their way to Egypt. When Craig and I decided to focus on the brothers, we were able to skip several chapters and move on to a time of famine in their part of the world. It was a famine for which Joseph, who had become the Pharaoh's chief minister, was able to prepare, thanks to his gift for interpreting dreams. When the brothers come to Egypt seeking help, Joseph recognizes them. Eventually, he reveals his identity, and the brothers are reconciled. It is an emotional moment, but it brings us to the essential themes of the story and of our song, Joseph and His Brothers, namely, Joseph's grace in forgiving his brothers and his ability to see that God had brought something good out of their treachery. The song tells the story in 8 short verses. To add interest to what otherwise might seem rather dull, Craig raises the key by a semitone every second verse. And between the opening verses that refer to the beginning of the story and the last 3 verses that bring it to a conclusion, he has inserted an interlude to indicate the passing of time. Repeatedly, we are reminded that bad things, the brothers' betrayal, their selling Joseph to traders, the coming of a famine, and so on, are still bad. But God can redeem even bad situations and bring good out of them.
Now Joseph was a dreamer. Some dreams were bad, some good. If anyone could use them to preserve the lives of people, then God could. His brothers were so jealous, no one would call that good. If anyone could overrule their jealous thoughts and wicked deeds, God could. His brothers, they betrayed him. No one would call that good. If anyone could find a way to bring a blessing out of that, God could. Into a pit they threw him. No one would call that good. If anyone could see how such a thing could ever turn out well, God could. They sold him to some traders. No one would call that good. If anyone could turn that into something that would lead to life, God could. Fast forward to a famine. No one would call that good, but it was Joseph's dreams that let him save as many people as he could. His brothers came to Egypt. They came in search of food. They didn't recognize him then, but Joseph met their need because he could. And Joseph, he forgave them. They did what no one should. His brothers meant to do him harm, but Joseph said God meant it all for good.
If Joseph's story occupies many chapters in the book of Genesis, Moses is the person who dominates not only the entire book of Exodus, but the books that follow it as well. Many, in fact, would name him as the most significant figure in the Hebrew Bible. We approached the challenge of writing a song about Moses rather differently from the way we dealt with Joseph. Instead of focusing on two periods in his life, we wrote a song, Moses Had Work to Do, that picked out a series of particular episodes in his life, beginning with his infancy. The story of his mother placing baby Moses in a basket on the River Nile is one that has always appealed to children. It also introduces the reality that these were dangerous times for the Hebrew people, even as it leads to Moses' discovery by Pharaoh's daughter, who ensures his survival. The song goes on to remind singers and listeners of Moses' calling, of his leadership during the Exodus from Egypt, and his role in bringing the law, which included the Ten Commandments, to his people. Clearly, Moses was a man on a mission. Spurred on by the insistent rhythm and Eastern-sounding melody of Craig's music, you may imagine yourself in an exotic bazaar, we are frequently reminded that, on the one hand, Moses had a calling, God had work for him to do, while on the other, God would support him in carrying out that calling. God will surely see him through. Not every detail in Moses' life, in fact, not even every episode is included, but there is a steady forward movement as we recount some of the most important events in his life and the thread that runs through them. A simple two-line coda brings the two-sided theme of calling and promise into the present and applies it to our lives today. Even children can relate to the continuing relevance of that theme as they sing, "And God has work for us to do. God will surely see us through."
Moses in a basket floating on the water soon will find himself at home with Pharaoh's daughter. God will surely see him through. God has work for him to do. Moses in the desert sees a bush is burning. Then a voice is heard, and Moses now is learning. God has work for him to do. God will surely see him through. Moses in the palace, Pharaoh he says boldly, "Let my people go." Though Pharaoh answers coldly, Moses will his work pursue. God will surely see him through. Moses at the seashore leads the people onward. They will soon be free, inspired by his strong word. God will surely see them through, Moses and the people too. Moses on the mountain, there the law receiving. Then the people hear those holy words believing. God will guide and see them through, showing them what they should do. And God has work for us to do. God will surely see us through.